Welcome to another in our business conversation series, the series where we delve deep into what's important to people in the business world, in that B2B space and professional services. And today we're going to focus on law firms because we're on the road, as you might have seen. We're at the lovely MC offices. It's a great series that we have here. You won't want to miss any of this content, so make sure you head to our channel, you subscribe, and you do like this content. But that's enough about all that kind of stuff. What are we here to talk about today? Well, I'm joined here by Paul Cottingham, the Chief Operating Officer. Paul's had a great career, which he'll tell you about, but he's been in London, here in New Zealand. He's done roles in the Big Four, in marketing and client director roles, and he's now in the Chief Operating role here at Meredith Connell. So super excited to discuss all that stuff with you today, Paul.
Thank you, and welcome to MC.
Thank you. Delighted to be here. So just to get started, tell us in more detail, a little bit about your career and what's brought you to where you are today.
Sure. Well, interestingly, I'm a civil engineer by degree. So wow. I started off civil engineering in Scotland many moons ago in the middle of winter, and I lasted a whole 6 months doing that.
Impressive.
Snow used to fall sideways rather than down up there. Then joined an environmental engineering firm as a sales engineer. That's where I started doing business development and sales. Grew a product from turning over about 400 grand a year to 4.5 million over 5 years. So
pretty good growth.
Yeah, so that's where I learned about pipeline and account management. Then took a bit of time off and went travelling, and then came back and joined PwC. That was as a client-facing person doing valuation and strategy work. And then the whole world changed with Enron and WorldCom. So yes, put my hand up and said, I've done business development and sales before. How about I join the BD team? So did a lot of business development in London, and then had the opportunity to come over to New Zealand on a whole 2-year secondment, which was 15 years ago.
Yeah, good 2 years.
Yes, exactly. So headed up the BD role for PwC New Zealand here, and then took another career break, and then joined KPMG as their clients and markets director, and had a good 9 years there. Saw a lot of growth. Took the business from 135 million to 270 million over that period of time. And then about 18 months ago, got tapped on the shoulder to come here to Meredith Connell. So, and I'm glad I've made the leap for a bit of a change.
Awesome. So, Paul, you've had a career on both sides of the world. Big Four, particularly, you worked in London and here now in Auckland and New Zealand. What are the main differences between working in both different geographies?
Great question. I was reflecting on that. I think it's obviously size, scale, culture, the network. I know in London it was very easy to grow your network quickly because there's so many people in the firm, and it's easier to work to connecting with people from the US and other parts of Europe very quickly and easily. Coming to a smaller firm in a smaller country, that broad T is something that I've also had to work on as well. So when you're in the larger regions, you have many people doing multiple of roles. When you come to a smaller firm, you need to wear multiple hats all the time. So going from business development to understanding the web to marketing. So being very agile with your skills and ability. In terms of those networks, though, I think I had to go from PwC, where I already had a network, to a new Big Four firm. So it's just a different way of doing it. So reaching out to ASPAC and then reaching out to Global in terms of getting that network. So some big differences. I also thought that no matter the brand, you would have the same culture, same PwC culture between London and here, but it is different.
Okay.
Cultures, I think, reflect the leadership, the partners who are within the firm. So the culture is not representative of the brand, but the people within the firm. So I probably saw some differences there between PwC and KPMG, but it was almost the opposite going from London to New Zealand.
Fascinating. There's one thing you touched upon there that I want to dig a little bit deeper on, because I get asked this quite a lot as someone else who's also migrated to this country.
Yeah.
When you go to a different location, you've got to build your networks, as you touched upon there, from scratch.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard because, particularly in smaller geography, people have got entrenched networks, they've gone through the same schools, the same universities. How do you actually meaningfully break in and build your network when you come to a new location?
A lot of that is about growing trust. So I think getting in the trenches, working alongside your teammates, rolling your sleeves up, showing that can-do attitude. It's certainly something I've wanted to show in leadership as well. So I encourage a culture across my team of rolling sleeves up to get things done. And then that naturally starts to create your own relationship and network. And just getting things done is a good way of showing that you're here for the long term, you want to stay around, and people will then come into your network naturally with that.
Fantastic. So Paul, as well as Big Four and law firms, you also took some time out to go and volunteer in Africa. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Sure. Gosh, what a rewarding and humbling experience. So in between PwC and KPMG, I took about 18 months out. So not only doing a little bit of consulting work, I decided to go to Africa. My intention was to go there and teach a bit of English, do something a bit different. But when I got to the orphanage, which had been built about 3 or 4 years ago, one of the key buildings didn't have a roof on it. They had all the materials there, but no roof. And every time they'd raise the money to build the roof, it went on vaccinations or actually legal fees regarding the property. So asked them how much they needed, and it was a whole $2,000.
Wow.
So I landed there on the Wednesday, went to the orphanage on the Thursday. Come the Friday, I had set up a Just Giving page and emailed my friends on Facebook and etc. Come the Sunday, I had $7,000 raised, and then basically a week from landing, I had a team of labourers there building the roof, and we put a roof back on. With the extra money, we built a log burning stove so they could actually cook their food over a proper stove rather than an open fire. And then got about teaching English to about 30 kids there as well. So it was a very humbling experience. And when you actually started to meet some of the kids, some had been born alcoholics because their parents were alcoholics. Some kids had been found on the side of the road, effectively eating dirt off the side of the road. So it was in the foothills of Kilimanjaro, so it was a great picturesque place, but some of the life stories that you heard from the kids there were just extraordinary. So it was great to give back. It was never the intention to go there and do this, but you see an opportunity, you see a moment, and I thought it was just something that I should do with that civil engineering background.
Fantastic. Inspiring stuff.
Thank you.
So Paul, we've touched upon it. You've worked in professional services for a long time now. Majority of it early on in accountancy. And now you've made the shift to legal.
Yeah.
Obviously those skills are transferable, but there's a difference between accountants and lawyers and accountancy firms and legal firms. What are those differences? What have you experienced? What have been the main difference when you transitioned over?
Yeah. The thing that's been really intriguing for me is stickiness of clients, and those clients seem to be more sticky to accountancy firms and Big Four firms, to the actual brand rather than the partner, whereas on the legal side I see more stickiness to the actual lawyer. So clients seem to follow the lawyer more than they would follow
this is my brand. Lawyer, not my brand, right?
That's right, yeah. So they say they introduce their lawyer rather than their accountant being the brand of the Big Four. So, and look, that might be due to the niche I'm working in with the biggest litigation firm in New Zealand, but it's definitely something touched on with through my network of professional services, BD people, who will both know that a lot of those people, how they've equally said it's been interesting that it's about their lawyer as a person rather than as a firm.
Which creates a challenge in terms of when lawyers move on, retention of clients, right?
Yeah.
Have you found that so far?
Well, that's certainly something that I'm keen to bring those thoughts and ideas in from the other Big Four firm into MC is what does succession look like? What does the future of MC look like? We have a lot of natural succession happen at MC because a lot of partners later on in their careers will then go to the bar.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that those partners that go to the bar, they're equally supported by MC, and then what work will stay with MC, and then what work they will take going on. So it needs to be mutual beneficial to both MC and the leading partner as well.
Nice transition planning.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
So Paul, it's really interesting how your career has developed. Most of your career, apart from the start, which you shared earlier, has been in the BD roles. And now you find yourself in a Chief Operating Officer role. So I'm really curious about how you managed to make that transition and what advice you would give others who are thinking of also making that transition. What should they be looking to do?
Well, the transition probably goes back about 12 years, which is interesting. So that period of time when I went to Africa, when I came back, I wanted to connect in with a new network and talk to people about careers. So I literally set about setting up 3 meetings a week with people I didn't know to talk about their careers, understand how they got to where they wanted to do, because I was thinking about what does the next 10 years look like for me. So connected in with a lot of people, and one of those was a partner at Kerridge and Partners. And we had a conversation. He was an executive coach. And he said at the end, give me your CV. So I gave him my CV. After that, I joined KPMG, and that had been through an introduction and a phone call, and the job wasn't advertised, but you use your network and you get yourself in there. But then 12 years later, I get a phone call from Kerridge and Partners saying, we've still got your CV from 12 years ago.
Wow.
I see you used to be head of operations in PwC. We've got this job going at MC. Would you like to be considered for it? And can we have a new version of your CV as well? So gave them the new CV, had a couple of telephone conversations with the recruiters, then had numerous interviews here at MC, and then got it. So I think what was really interesting for me is that network and always getting yourself out there, putting yourself into a space where you can grow your network, because you never know where things might land. And 12 years later, I've landed here.
But it's also putting yourself out there, but also willingness to learn and hear stories about different career options, different paths, and being open to it, surely. Yeah.
And that was the thing. I think some people might call it a midlife crisis, but certainly after finishing at PwC, it was, what now? I would have been in my mid-30s then. So I was trying to figure out what next. And given the size of the professional services firms here, I did see the opportunity just to see if I could try something new, but then I was drawn back to the role at KPMG.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Paul, using your crystal ball, looking 2 or 3 years further down the line, thinking about what trends and factors are going to affect the legal industry, what's actually going to happen in the next few years?
Well, certainly using my crystal ball, it seems like AI is the thing that everybody's talking about. I think it's probably about how we're going to use it and what does it really mean. A lot of our juniors are talking about AI. What's the impact on their roles? They will do a lot of discovery and writing precedents. You're also seeing that in the US, firms are using it to predict what judges might do on a certain day. the juries, about whether they get the right jury for a prosecution or a defence. There's obviously all these hallucinations that we're hearing about as well, so that it's saying the wrong stuff. I've got no doubt that will start to decrease as it gets stronger and more, and it learns more. But then I put myself forward in terms of the graduates coming through. Ultimately, we need the grey hair in 10 years' time, but how are they going to learn their skills right now? So I think it's going to have a really big impact on not only the juniors now, but what the industry could mean and look like in a number of years' time as well.
But the interesting side of that is they're going to come through as AI natives. So we have digital natives now, but we actually have AI natives. So will it perhaps be on the firm to kind of understand that, and how do they leverage those who actually know how to work and interact with AI a bit better? Yeah,
and every generation we have a new way of working. So we've had the Big Bang. We've had laptops. Our generation have had to adapt to that. The new generation coming through have had to adapt to AI. Maybe it's my generation that I've got to adapt a bit more to AI and what it means for the future of the firm as well.
Professional services firms, law firms, always been about people. Right now there's an interesting dynamic going on around people not coming back into the office, so we're losing innovation and collaboration, all those really, really good things in those industries. And trends are down and people going to the office. Yet where we sit here in MC's beautiful office, it's quite the opposite. People want to come into work. They actively come in here. So what's the magic trick? How do you get people to come actually into the office?
Well, fortunately, we've got an amazing office space. So after COVID, a lot of the other law firms were asking what our trick was to getting people in. I think we had some of the highest return rates across all of the law firms. But the actual office itself is an exceptional place to work. Lots of space for people to quietly work, but also lots of space to collaborate. And I think a lot of the work that the lawyers do means that there needs to be a lot more collaboration and talking to each other as they prepare for their court appearances. And then as you walk through the offices, you'll see the big sweeping staircases, the beautiful artwork, a barista on site for free coffees, nice. amazing views of the harbour. So on a sunny day, it is just spectacular in here. And certainly a place that's where I first came for my first interview and walking through the terrarium, which people will see just through the window there. We've got 1,600 plants across 2 floors. So it feels a much nicer place to work. It's got a Wellness 6 rating as well, so which is the highest rating for officers. And that was definitely a labour of love for the previous leadership here. So I'm very pleased to inherit such an amazing space that they've left for generations to come.
So yeah, a phrase a previous guest of ours used using that design and interior design space was make it worth the commute. Yeah. Do you think that's the trick here?
Yeah, make it worth the commute, make it a friendly place to be, make it a place where people can work hard but also have an opportunity to hang out with their friends. And we've got an amazing cafe down there which is always full at lunchtime, so people can hang out and chat about things there as well.
So getting into one of my favourite topics, BD and sales. In the legal sector and even professional services, at what stage in their careers should practitioners start thinking about BD?
If it was my way, the moment they walk in the door. We can start teaching them networking skills, active listening skills, questioning skills to start to build their networks, build their trust. If I think about the programs that we've rolled out at other firms, those first steps around business development and those skills, yes, we targeted the partners, but then roll the clock 5, 6, 7 years further on, those same skills we've taught the partners at that moment in time, we're then teaching our younger generation coming through. So you definitely need to start at the top if you're doing a bit of a culture change. But ultimately, the goal should be that those skills you're delivering now at partner level, you'd then be delivering it your grads coming in the door 6 or 7 years later.
Because it creates a habit, right? If you get it in early, you'll do it for the rest of your career and it'll stick with you. If you try and learn it later, it's harder.
That's exactly right. And it's often been intriguing for me that there's always been an expectation with people who are technically very astute and very sound, that the moment they become a partner, they flick a switch and they're able to do business development without being taught it. So let's give those skills earlier on in their career, such that when they become a partner or even a director with some sales targets, that it's just innate in what they do every day.
And you think at that stage in your career when you're at the top of your game, to do something new that's also potentially outside of your comfort zone, personality style and personality type wise, be even more scary because the fear of failure intensifies as you get later on in your career.
That's right. So it's that old adage, teaching an old dog new tricks.
Yeah.
And I think also what I've seen is that there'll be people who are good at sales, but if you ask them a question, why did you ask that in the moment, or why did you do that with that client? Some just don't know. They're just innately good at it.
Yeah.
So giving those same people a deeper understanding of why they're asking the question, why they're doing that action in that moment, makes them more consciously competent as well.
Yes. So Paul, getting away from the individual and thinking about the organisational or firm level, how do we actually start to get a whole firm to move as one and think in that client-centric way and start to embed those kind of disciplines of CX across a whole organisation?
Gosh, where do you start with CX? We've been fortunate enough to bring in experts like yourself and some other people to help us navigate that journey. So yes, we are on a bit of a journey at MC around bringing some new ideas on what good CX looks like. Be that upfront account management, be it getting some feedback from clients, having consistent skills around what good business development looks like. So definitely a journey for us right now. I've been fortunate enough to work with some really amazing people who have helped me understand what good CX looks like. And I often think trying to do that from the inside can be equally quite difficult. So sometimes bringing those external experts in to say what you're going to say, but the fact that they're an external expert coming in and saying the same thing just adds a little more intensity and relevance, I think, in some of our people's minds, that not only Paul's saying it, but his external colleagues are saying it as well.
But law firms and professional service firms are unique beasts, right? So at senior management level and those key stakeholders, they're quite key on this journey, aren't they? How do you get their buy-in?
I'm fortunate enough to have a really good board who are already bought in to doing business development and client experience. There are definitely a few elements I'm wanting to start to bring in terms of, well, let's ask our clients, let's get those NPS scores, let's get some feedback. And that's still quite new here.
Yeah.
So taking the leadership on that journey of what good CX looks like, some of it is just testing with them. Here's what I've seen worked well before. These have been the results. Can we think about doing this? Can we think about doing that? So just using that experience and talking through what the outcomes for those projects have been for other firms has really brought the colour to doing CX here.
So like any change management piece, taking them on the journey and explaining how it could look.
Yeah.
So for the benefit of our audience, what BD and marketing strategies have been most effective in your career?
I'm a big fan of key account management. When I've looked at how we've rolled that out in other firms, really focusing on those key accounts where you've got deep trusted relationships already, expanding those trusted relationships, referring other people into those clients, some of the outputs and outcomes that I've seen at one firm, we had a key account management program which I started, and those 80 odd clients accounted for about 20% of the revenue. 7 years later, those same 80 odd clients accounted for over 40% of the revenue.
Nice.
Some years we were getting growth of between 15 and 20%. And I think that goes to the real crux of building those deep trusted relationships and the stickiness to a brand as well, and the people. So it's almost like a combined piece around growing trust for the firm and for the person. But when you start to refer other people into that client, those clients start to see you as their trusted advisor. They'll come and ask you questions about areas where they're not in your wheelhouse of expertise, but because you built the trust, you've helped them through other challenges, and you're there when there's a crisis, but you're also there times like this when the market's a bit slow.
Yeah.
But you're in front of them, you're talking to them, and it's not necessarily selling them anything right now. It's just showing that you care, and they want to build that trust in you because you do and should care.
Absolutely. So we're on to our last question now, Paul. And I always ask all our guests the same question, so I can't mess this one up. And I do remember it, and I do find this one fun. It's in my heartland. What's your one piece of BD sales or marketing advice that's held well in your career that you would like to share with our audience?
Trust yourself. Trust yourself to get out there and build your network. I reflect back on that example I gave before about 12 years ago, trusting myself to go out there and build that network. And then 12 years later, I'm here. I was concerned at the time, worried at the time, that people wouldn't want to connect with me or have a conversation about their careers. But it was extraordinary. Nobody said no. Everybody wanted to talk about their careers and give some help and then some advice. So now it's almost like paying that back, or paying that back to give forward. That if people now call me about some advice and wanting some check-ins on their career, I'm more than happy to do it. So trust yourself, trust your network, and get out there and do it.
Great advice.
Thank you.
So that's an end to another one of our great business conversations. Thanks for your time today, Paul.
Thank you.
I've really, really enjoyed it. We've covered an awful lot today, like we do in all our business conversations. Today we've talked about BD, marketing, CX, the future of legal, how you get into a chief operating role, how you build your career. It's been a fascinating conversation for anyone in that B2B and professional services space, like all our conversations are. There's a playlist. Keep your eyes out for that. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, because there's more business conversations and other tutorials and free learning. Yes, we give free stuff away on this channel. So do stay tuned for that. Make sure you like and subscribe, like I said earlier. Thanks for being our host today, Paul. It's been brilliant. We enjoyed it here at MC, so thank you.
More than welcome.